Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, and today I'm joined by Jessup, and we are going to discuss fibromyalgia and long-term and short-term disability insurance claims. Now, fibromyalgia has been a medical condition which has been controversial from the standpoint of disability insurance companies for many years. But I would say over the last couple years, there's been a lot of favorable court decisions that have come out making fibromyalgia a more and more accepted medical condition by the disability insurance companies. But let's touch on right away why the disability insurance companies often challenge fibromyalgia disability and claims.
I think the main reason why is it's a subjective complaint, subjective condition. Can't take an MRI, no X-ray, CT scans. There's no real diagnostic test that can be performed to validate what's causing the pain. So the insurance companies have kind of taken a stance that, well, we just can't rely on the word of the person.
Okay, now we know there is some generally accepted medical diagnostic testing, and I say diagnostic from the standpoint of when a doctor is evaluating a patient, of these 11 of 18 tender points throughout the body. And how important is it for a doctor to document that tender point type test?
I mean, it's crucial. It's really crucial to the actual diagnosis. It's the requirement to make the diagnosis that 11 of the trigger points do have activity. So if that's not made, then I mean, realistically, it's pretty hard to support the diagnosis.
Right, and I know I just recently read a case against MetLife where MetLife won because the doctor wasn't appropriately documenting the 11 of the 18 points. Now, there's also been some other really good cases that have come out for people suffering from fibromyalgia talking about how they could show evidence of the fact that they are suffering from this condition. And one of the things that I just recently read was the fact that these claimants should keep some kind of daily journal as to what's going on with them, and then sharing that journal with their doctor, even going as far as to ask their doctor, either say, yes, I've reviewed a daily journal of complaints, or I have attached to this report a full documentation of the journal of everything that this claimant's gone through. And the courts have said, look, that's objective evidence to us of everything that the claimant's gone through, and the doctors are able to adopt that daily activities of the claimant and say, based upon the trigger points, tender points, and their activity, I find that they would be restricted.
And another big thing with the courts too is insurance companies will usually say there's no objective evidence of the condition. A lot of courts and different rulings have held, well, how can you require objective evidence of a condition that doesn't technically have objective medical tests to be able to be performed, MRIs, things along those lines. So you have to take the subjective complaints of the person and what the doctor's documenting for face value.
Right, and you say about the disability companies will say you didn't give us any objective evidence. I think when someone has fibromyalgia and you get that letter, which we get almost daily, I think that's criminal on the part of the disability insurance company to say that. To say there's no objective evidence of a condition that has no objective criteria, no objective testing available is criminal and fraudulent on the part of the insurance company. I mean, we're used to it, but a person out there who's watching this video and says, well, can I file a claim for fibromyalgia, or I recently got a denial letter and they're telling me there's no objective evidence, it's garbage. I mean, they should not be intimidated by that, and they should realize that they do have options and there's things that can be done about that, but you have to really know what to do and consult with somebody who can tell you what to do. What do you most commonly find are the limiting factors from a person who has fibromyalgia? How does it prevent them from being able to do their job, from your experience?
From my experience, I think it's going to go and it's going to relate into anyone suffering from pain. The way the pain affects their ability to concentrate, affects their ability to sleep, to be able to just go through the day, sit at the desk all day. If you're doing more physical labor type things, the actual physical aspects of it. And you normally see too with fibromyalgia, there's a cross section of various different conditions that a lot of times come into play, or symptoms. You have the fatigue from it. It's very common that you have secondary mental health, depression issues that go into it. So it's this whole body of just almost a systemic shutdown of sorts. And it's the hardest thing is showing that whole body, everything, all the symptoms, all the problems they're having as a whole, and how it's affecting them at work.
And I commonly find that our clients who have fibromyalgia are treating with a rheumatologist or an internal medicine specialist doctor who has a specific understanding and training in fibromyalgia. And that's very important because you can go to maybe an orthopedic doctor or someone who doesn't specialize in fibromyalgia, and they can try to give you a diagnosis of fibromyalgia, but they don't know the proper protocol to document it correctly, and that's almost always going to result in a claim denial.
You know, and let's be honest, there's still, you know, a number of doctors out there that don't necessarily believe the diagnosis of fibromyalgia is a real one. So if you're not treating with the proper doctor, a rheumatologist, someone who really understands the condition, you could be creating bad medical records, you know, you know, along these lines, and insurance companies going to focus their attention solely on that. Another thing is when you treat with a rheumatologist or a specialist, they're also going to run the gamut of tests to see if it is something else. Maybe you have RA, maybe there's issues with lupus or other conditions that could be mirroring. In a lot of ways, fibromyalgia, they rule out what some of these other ones could be, and they come to the diagnosis. So you need someone who understands the condition and how it affects.
It's interesting because you said a lot of times they are going to test for these other conditions, but often I see that they don't. And they don't do the proper objective testing. And if they're having problems with numbness or radiating pain or more pain in their neck than let's say their legs or whatever, that they don't do an MRI of the neck and they don't do an MRI of the back, which if that did show some kind of positive finding, it would make the claim a lot easier to prove than just per se fibromyalgia. So, I mean, there's lots of things we could talk about with fibromyalgia. We're very knowledgeable in fibromyalgia, huge advocates of the fibromyalgia organizations and supportive of hundreds of people we've spoken to that have fibromyalgia. If you have fibromyalgia as a disabling condition, feel free to call us at any time. We always offer you a free consultation to discuss your claim, and we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you.